So a few months ago, I decided to rewatch ReZero. I hadn't seen it since it first came out in 2016, and I wanted a refresher before Season 2 came out. And it was even better than I remembered it being. But it also made me realize something about the isekai genre as a whole. So the main draw of a lot of isekais is escapism, so most shows try to make their protagonists relatable to help that sense of escapism. But here's the thing, most isekai protagonists, at least that I've seen, don't tend to have relatable character traits. They tend to just be blank slates because the audience is meant to be able to put themselves in the protagonist's shoes. And I don't know about you, but I can't exactly relate to not having any personality traits. I relate to characters with similar personality traits to me, and since the point of blank slate characters is not having personality traits, they end up isolating people, or at least me, instead of being relatable. Now, isekais aren't the only pieces of media that have blank slate characters the viewer is supposed to project themselves on, but most other places I've seen that trope are a bit more forgivable as they have broader intended audiences, so trying to give the protagonist relatable traits has a much greater potential to alienate much larger parts of their audience than isekais. I still don't like that it results in main characters that have very little personality, but it's more forgivable than when most isekais do it. Because isekais have this tendency to say that their main characters are weebs, so the shows very clearly know what specific group of people their audience is, and claim that their protagonists are part of that group to try to be more relatable, and then never write those protagonists to feel like they're part of that group. Even isekai protagonists with actual personalities fall into this trap of not actually feeling like weebs. I mean, let's be honest, if you saw how characters like Naofumi or Rimuru acted without being told by the narrative that they are weebs, you wouldn't think they were. I mean, sure, not all weebs act exactly the same, we're a decently diverse group of people, but there's at least a few commonly shared traits that you could use to make a character feel like a weeb. But then there's ReZero and its protagonist, Subaru, who has plenty of character traits that make him feel like a weeb. For instance, a lot of weebs are shut-ins and thus lack human connection, but because humans are inherently social creatures, shut-ins tend to have a strong desire for connections with others, and that's the reason Subaru is so quick to attach himself to so many characters immediately after meeting them. And he's incredibly interested in how the world and magic works, not because he needs to learn it to survive, but because he thinks it's just cool fantasy lore, like we do. A detail pointed out in Mother's Basement's incredible video about why ReZero is a masterpiece, which I highly recommend. Hell, Subaru even quotes One Piece in the first episode. And because Subaru acts so much like a weeb, it makes the viewers relate to him much more than they would to most other isekai protagonists, and thus makes a lot of the series' most impactful moments even stronger because of how strongly the viewer relates to Subaru. Now, all of this could be used to strengthen escapism, and I think it should be in other isekais, and that's why I brought them up. But if you've seen ReZero, or have a friend who's seen it, or honestly, even if you just know like one thing about ReZero, it's probably that it's, well, it's not exactly escapist fantasy. But ReZero also doesn't use Subaru's relatability just to make the audience suffer more effectively. It uses it to actively dismantle the trope of weebs being transported to another world and becoming impossible badasses. And honestly, I think it's pretty ironic that a writer figured out how to fix a problem that tends to weaken the sense of escapism in most isekais, specifically for the sake of dismantling that sense of escapism. But I'm not actually going to talk about how ReZero dismantles these ideas because there are already other videos that are, let's be honest, way better than this one, already doing that, and I'll link them in the description and the iCard if I figure out how that works. This video is more about the lack of relatability in most isekai protagonists and how to fix it, and I hope that I've explained that well. But hey, if you like this video, please like, subscribe, share the video with your friends, and follow me on Twitter. I don't have an outro line.